Okay, so you're thinking about maybe reading Pippi Longstocking,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
not sure if it's really worth the time, in 2025.
Right.
Like, are the classics, are they still relevant today,
Yeah.
or are they kind of past their prime?
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we've got like a whole bunch of Goodreads reviews.
Okay.
Some are like from today, some are like from way back in the 50s.
Wow.
Plus, we've got a blog review from like a 9-year-old.
Oh, cool.
And her mom, and of
Yeah.
course some snippets,
Yeah.
from the book itself.
Love it.
So we'll kind of like wade through all that and,
Yeah.
help you figure out if this one's a must read or if you can just skip it.
Great.
All right, so,
Let's cut to the chase.
okay.
Pippi Longstocking is still worth reading today.
Okay. All
But
right.
there are some things you should know. Good
Okay.
pick.
Right, so a qualified yes.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, not every book,
Right.
pleases everybody.
No.
A lot of the reviews compare Astrid Lindgren's style to Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Both authors known for that kind of like slightly twisted humor that kids love.
Yeah.
What makes this book stand out?
I think it's definitely the absurdist humor
Okay.
and the episodic nature of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Lindgren isn't as focused on a tight plot
Okay.
like Dahl often is.
Okay.
Pippi's logic is what drives everything.
Okay.
One Goodreads reviewer mentioned the scene where she makes pancakes on the floor because, well, why not? It perfectly captures that anything goes energy.
That's a good example.
Yeah.
But I got to say, that sounds like it could get old fast.
Yeah.
I mean, is it just like one random wacky antic after another?
You're right that episodic structure can feel repetitive for some readers.
Yeah.
But Lindgren's genius is that Pippi's voice is so strong and unique.
Okay.
Even when her logic is completely bonkers,
Yeah.
she explains it in a way that makes you, at least for a moment, see the world from her perspective.
Okay.
Like when she tells the teacher she can't go to school every day because she needs time to be a thing finder.
Oh.
It's ridiculous, but also kind of brilliant.
Okay, I can see how that would be charming, especially for kids.
Yeah.
Now, this 9-year-old blogger
Uh-huh.
who read the book with her mom,
Yeah.
she was fascinated by all the adventures, obviously, fighting bullies
Right.
and going to the circus and all that.
Of course.
But she also felt like there was a deeper message about self-acceptance.
Interesting.
Was she reading too much into it, or is that really there?
I think she was onto something.
Okay.
Pippi constantly challenges expectations, especially those coming from adults.
Okay.
Remember when she refuses to sleep in a bed
Mm-hmm.
and instead makes her own cozy nest on the floor?
Yeah.
It's a small act of rebellion, but it speaks to her determination to live life on her own terms.
Okay, but isn't that just Pippi being eccentric?
Right.
I'm not sure I see it as a conscious message about self-acceptance.
That's the interesting thing about this book. It's open to interpretation. Is Pippi's behavior a deliberate commentary on societal norms? Or is it simply an expression of her unique personality?
Right?
I think both readings are valid.
Okay.
And that ambiguity makes it relevant for modern readers who are still grappling with these ideas of individuality versus conformity.
All right, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You have to think about it a bit more deeply, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest. Some people just find Pippi obnoxious.
Yeah.
Several Goodreads reviews called her a spoiled brat, which, given her wealth and freedom, is kind of understandable.
Right.
How do you reconcile those criticisms with the idea that she's this inspiring figure?
Yeah, it's true. Pippi's privilege is definitely a problem.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to worry about things like money or rules, which, makes her freedom a lot easier to achieve.
Right.
But the book also shows us the flip side of that freedom.
Okay.
Her loneliness and her lack of parental guidance.
So you're saying there's more depth to her character than just being this, like, wild, carefree spirit.
Exactly. And that complexity is what makes her interesting.
Okay.
Even for adult readers, you can enjoy the fun, adventurous parts,
Right.
while also acknowledging the more problematic aspects.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not like the book is saying,
Right.
everyone should just do whatever they want.
No.
Consequences be damned.
Right.
And it's interesting to think about how those problematic aspects might hit differently for modern readers.
Yeah.
One Goodreads reviewer mentioned feeling uncomfortable with the way Pippi's father is described as a king of the natives.
Right.
And that kind of language was more common back then,
Yeah.
but definitely wouldn't fly today.
No, not at all.
It's a good reminder that even beloved classics can have elements that don't age well.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to look at them with a critical eye.
Absolutely. And that's part of what makes these deep dives so valuable.
Yeah.
It's not about erasing or ignoring those problematic elements, but rather engaging with them thoughtfully.
Now, one thing that came up a lot in the reviews is the episodic nature of the stories.
Yep.
Some readers loved the short, self-contained adventures, but others found it a bit lacking in structure. Like, is there even an overarching plot?
There is a loose storyline, but it's definitely not a tightly plotted novel.
Okay.
Lindgren is more interested in exploring Pippi's world and her unique way of interacting with it.
So if someone is looking for a page-turner with a lot of twists and turns, this might not be the best fit.
Probably not.
But if you enjoy a more whimsical, character-driven narrative, then you'll probably appreciate Lindgren's style.
Right.
It's funny, one reviewer compared Pippi to Lisbeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, wow.
They saw Lisbeth as like a modern, darker version of Pippi.
Interesting.
Is there any truth to that, or is that reaching a bit?
There are definitely some interesting parallels.
Okay.
Both characters are fiercely independent and refuse to conform to societal expectations.
Right.
They both challenge traditional notions of femininity and demonstrate remarkable strength and resilience. But the tone and context are completely different.
Okay.
Larson's world is gritty and realistic, while Lindgren's is whimsical and fantastical.
Yeah, I could see how that comparison could be intriguing, but ultimately doesn't quite hold up.
Right.
What about a more lighthearted comparison, like Pippi versus Matilda?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Both are bookish rebels in their own way.
Yeah. Matilda is driven by a sense of justice and fights against the systems that oppress her. Pippi, on the other hand, simply lives outside the system.
Okay.
She doesn't try to change it. She creates her own rules.
Yeah.
They're both empowering characters, but in very different ways.
All right, so we've talked about the writing style, the deeper themes, and even compared Pippi to some other literary icons.
Right.
But I still think some listeners are wondering, is this book really worth my time in 2025?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Ultimately, it depends on what you're looking for in a book. If you're open to a story that's funny, quirky, and thought-provoking, even with its flaws, then Pippi Longstocking is definitely worth a read.
So it's not just a children's book.
No.
Adults can enjoy it too.
Absolutely. I'd argue that it's even more rewarding for adults who can appreciate the nuances and complexities that might go over a child's head.
I like that. So it's not just a nostalgia trip.
Yeah.
There's something there for modern readers to discover.
Exactly. And you might even find yourself questioning some of your own assumptions about childhood freedom and what it means to live authentically.
Okay, I'm sold. I'm adding it to my reading list.
Awesome.
But for those who are still on the fence, what's the one thing you would say to convince them to give Pippi a chance?
I'd say this Pippi Longstocking is a reminder that even in a world that often tries to put us in boxes, there's always room for a little bit of joyful anarchy.
I love that joyful anarchy.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
What if Pippi existed in our world today, in 2025? Would she be a social media influencer, a political activist, or maybe even a TikTok star?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
Would she be celebrated for her individuality, or would she be seen as a threat? It's hard to say.
It's almost scary to think about Pippi navigating the complexities of the modern world.
Right.
Or maybe it's the modern world that should be scared of Pippi.
Perhaps a bit of both, but I think that uncertainty speaks to the enduring power of this character.
Yeah.
She's a force of nature, a reminder that we don't always have to fit in to make a difference.
So the final takeaway, Pippi Longstocking, is a book that makes you think, makes you laugh, and maybe even makes you want to go climb a tree and shout, "I'm Pippi Longstocking and I do whatever I want."
That's awesome.
And who knows, maybe a little bit of that Pippi spirit is exactly what we all need right now.
I couldn't agree more. Well, folks, that's our deep dive into the world of Pippi Longstocking.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did.
Yes. And now, if you'll, excuse me, I'm off to try and lift a horse.
All right.
Purely for research purposes, of course.
Of course.
Until next time, happy reading.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what kind of trouble Pippi would get into in 2025.
Oh, absolutely.
Would she be leading climate marches, disrupting board meetings, or maybe just creating hilarious TikToks from Villa Villekulla?
Now that you mention it,
it
is pretty hard to imagine her conforming to the rules of social media.
Right.
Like, she'd probably just find some way to turn the whole thing upside down.
Yeah, maybe she'd start her own social media platform.
Oh, yeah.
Where everyone's encouraged to, like, share their weirdest, most nonsensical ideas.
Totally.
No filters, no algorithms, just pure Pippified chaos.
I love it.
Right.
I can almost see it now.
Yeah.
A platform where instead of you get thing finders.
Yes.
Or monkey chatter awards.
And instead of sponsored posts, you get random acts of kindness challenges.
Exactly.
Right. And instead of trying to fit in,
Yeah.
you're celebrated for standing out.
Totally.
It sounds both terrifying and amazing.
Maybe that's the true legacy of Pippi Longstocking.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds us that there's always another way to see the world, another way to be.
Totally.
Even if it means making pancakes on the floor.
Right.
Or wearing your shoes on your hands.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of chaos is exactly what we need to shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
Make the world a more interesting, more joyful place.
Totally agree.
So if you're feeling stuck in a rut, or you're trying too hard to fit in, maybe it's time to channel your inner Pippi.
Yeah.
Embrace your quirks, challenge the rules, and don't be afraid to make a little mischief along the way.
I love that.
Who knows, you might just inspire someone else to do the same.
Absolutely.
Well, that's our deep dive into the world of Pippi Longstocking.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this journey as much as we have.
Absolutely.
And remember, as Pippi herself would say, anything can happen, and it usually does.
It really does.
All right. Until next time, happy reading.